Hello and welcome to the channel. I'm coming to you today from Sugarland Run, Stream Valley Park in Fairfax County. It's a Fairfax County Park walking trail, and I guess you can see the creek, or the run as they call it here. You may remember that the first battle of the Civil War, well, at least the land battle, I think Charleston was the first naval bombardment, but the first land battle was Battle of Bull Run, which was in Manassas, Virginia. And the run, the creek, whatever you want to call it, we call them runs or creeks or streams up in this part of the country. If that was in Texas, it would be a river, but our rivers here are about as wide as the bank up there where the houses are up on top of, to the bank over there where the houses are, because we have a lot more water here than Texas does generally. Oh, I've got to tighten up this screw, sorry about that. But anyway, and I worked at a park going through college named Bull Run Regional Park, which is also in Fairfax County, but it's with a regional park authority, not the county park authority. This is part of the county park authority. And I'm on this very nice bridge. The lady told me it was the new bridge. And you can see they've got cement and then the blacktop, and the whole trail is blacktop. And I just made a whole 7 or 8 minutes, and I was getting ready to change locations, and I apparently pushed stop instead of pause. And I don't have a way to splice them that I'm aware of right now. So fortunately nobody, well, maybe it's a good thing I went, because another man came down the bridge and went the other way. So yeah, I said I'm on day 25 of my house sitting winter marathon of house sitting. This channel is actually called CP59 Fit Unconventional Healthy Living Strategies, and the secondary layer is my travels. So I thought as I was getting dressed for this, maybe I should call this channel Chip the Healthy House Sitter. But I think we'll stick to Unconventional Healthy Living Strategies, and I will just talk about travel interspersed with my health. But I do believe getting out in the sun and standing in a park, they call this forest bathing, and I think it is healthy for you. And sun, for sure. I'll get a little bit of vitamin D made on my arms as I hold the camera. And I apologize if it's a little bit bumpy, because this is my cell phone, so I could use the headphones, because the audio is a whole lot better than the microphone on the GoPro. But the GoPro has better video stabilization. And a lot of people just listen to videos these days instead of watch them. So the consensus is that people will tolerate a bad video, but they won't tolerate bad audio. So I hope it's not too loud. I turned on the first one on the TV or the phone or something that I'd made with these headphones on after not using them for a while. I went, oh my gosh, that's so loud. So yeah, you may have to turn the volume down. But anyway, I don't think I've introduced myself. But I'm Chip, and the channel is CP59 Fit. That's my brand, CP59 Fit Unconventional Healthy Living Strategies. And I figured there'd be a lot of people out here since it's almost 5 o'clock, but let's get to the topic of every who needs a who, and that's not going to relate to Dr. Seuss. That's going to relate to Dr. Benjamin Hardy and the book I just finished the other day called Who, Not How. So I've got lots of people coming. I'm coming from the left and from the right, so I'll let them go on by. Most of them got by. A man's coming down with a baby, but he can go in front of me, and I shouldn't hear him unless the baby screams. But I paused it there for that last couple to go by. But anyway, Dr. Hardy is an occupational psychologist, organizational psychologist, I always get that wrong, that I studied under before I moved from Texas. Studied under as in, I got a video each week, and then we had a group discussion of it in what was called a pod group. They're moving very slowly. Let me move down a little further here. can't say I blame him. A little child wanting to look in the creek. But anyway, the book was Who Not How was the first of his collaborations with Dan Sullivan, who is the CEO and founder of an organization called Strategic Coach, where he works with high-level entrepreneurs and coaches them, mentors them. And I believe it's either $25,000 or $50,000 a year to become a member of Strategic Coach. And there's an offshoot of that, which is not his, but a guy named Joe Polish runs it. And Dr. Hardy is part of Genius Network. And that's $25,000 a year to join. And Dr. Hardy was introduced to Dan Sullivan at a Genius Network meeting, and he offered to be the who for Dan Sullivan's large books, because Dan just writes like 50-page books and on short, more concise topics. So that turned into a series of 3 books, which I've already read or listened to. The 10x is easier than 2x, and I'm trying to apply that. But that was actually the 3rd one in the series, and he was writing Be Your Future Self Now, and the last time I took a course from him, which was Q4 of 2024. So I got a lot of insight because we had a Zoom call with Dr. Hardy every week, every Friday, I think. Anyway, this library app that I use to listen to books, they're coming to me when they're available. So the first one that was available was 10x is easier than 2x, which is really saying it's easier to achieve a big goal than it is a average or small goal, because it just is. I'd have to think a minute to tell you all the reasoning, but Who Not How was the first book, and like I said, Dr. Hardy was the who wrote the book about Who Not How for Dan Sullivan, who developed Who Not How. And you might say, well, why wouldn't the person that developed it, write the book? And that was because he wasn't an author. He said he couldn't finish long books. That's why he writes short books. So part of being a who is knowing what you don't know how to do. So the book in a nutshell was, there'd be a lot of things you could do. You could be your own how, but it's easier to hire a who, and probably cheaper and more efficient to hire the who that knows how to do it. But then there was a point where he said, he was writing the book, but his publisher didn't want to publish it. The publisher said, we'll talk about that book once you finish the book we've hired you to write, which was one of his own books called Personality Isn't Permanent. But later he said, well, I realized that even though I was the who, I needed a who that knew how to get another publisher. So again, at a Genius Network meeting, somebody there introduced him to, maybe it was a publisher he had used earlier. And the person introduced him and Dr. Hardy and the guy named Tucker, who helped him get the publishing done, to Babs and Dan. Babs is Dan's life partner. That's an interesting concept. I guess they're married, but he never calls her his wife, just his business partner and life partner. And I guess Dr. Hardy was already working with Tucker, so he introduced them to Babs and Dan. And then somebody else at the meeting introduced them to a publisher with Hay House Books, who already knew Dan's work and was very excited to do it. So it not only became a 1-book contract, it became a 3-book contract. So it's Who Not How, Be Your Future Self Now, and 10x is easier than 2x. Which, like I say, I've finished 2, and Be Your Future Self Now was available to me, but I hadn't even gotten into Who Not How yet. So the first and the second one will be in order, but the third one I did first. But so anyway, Tucker and the publisher of Hay House were Dr. Hardy's who's to make sure he get it done because he was getting so frustrated with his original publisher. So that's my way of saying that even if you're being somebody's how, like I am, I'm the how, so these people can go on their vacation. I'm the how in every house sit to take care of the house, to take care of the dog, to allow the homeowners to go away and have peace of mind. But I sometimes need a how to help me. I have learned or realized it would be a whole lot easier to have somebody along on these trips. Because some of these, dogs sleep most of the day and I don't. So getting up to take them out at 7 a.m. is causing me not to get quite enough sleep. So if I had a friend who was a early bird, they could get up and let the dog out, and then I could let him out at night, and we'd both get a good night's sleep. Because most of these houses, not this one, but the other 3 of the 4 I'm doing in the 80 days, all have 2 bedrooms I can use. We might have to share a bathroom. But see, that's how even who's need a who. Because Dr. Hardy needed one to get these 3 books published, and it turned it in from a 1-book deal to a 3-book deal, so that really magnified what he could get done. And there's lots of ways I could use a who. I could use a who to edit these videos. I could use who's, as in you, to tell me what you want me to talk about. And I could use a who to help me house sit or drive or cook or clean or whatever. And just to have a companion, because I don't often think about it, but technically after the stroke, the doctors didn't really want me living by myself, because I don't think I will the way I've changed my health, but if I were to have another one and nobody found me for hours or days, it wouldn't be good. So just for safety's sake, it might be better for me to look for somebody to move along. And I've actually contacted one person out of one of the school groups I'm in. And while I'm talking about school, let me remind you that I put out the invitation for you to join me in the Art of Optimal Living on school. All you got to do is go Google Art of Optimal Living, and his Instagram, YouTube, and school account will come up. Then you can join that, and then we can direct message, and you can post things, and you can read all the topics on carnivore and optimal living, which I would call unconventional healthy living. Fortunately, the young man that allowed me to promote his group is also living the carnivore lifestyle. He's trying to get into medical school. I think he's got an engineering degree. He lives on the West Coast. I'm currently on the East Coast, but we can all work together through this group. So that's SKOOL for school. I think that's probably long enough, and I should probably get back and feed the dog dinner. So see, another thing, I could be down here making a video and somebody could be watching the dog instead of her sleeping on the couch by herself. But that's not a necessity. That would just be a nicety. And it doesn't have to be full-time. If somebody wants to join me for a week or 2 here and there, I'm sure we can work that out. Just a thought. But I'd really like to see you in school in the Art of Optimal Living. Wouldn't it be nice just to take a walk down one of these trails? 2 of us chatting, kind of like we're doing now, except you'd be here in person. I know I was going to say my friend did a house sit with me, but I think we just did a cabin, and then she had her own house sits. See that pretty trail? Here they're paved trails, and they go up the hill, all up and down, up on both sides until you get to the roads where the houses are. And I think it was in the video that I deleted, but I was going to tell you, the reason this is so wide and flat is just like the Grand Canyon. You can see it over there. I don't need to point you in the sun, but you can see where all the brush and bramble is, kind of on both sides, and then it goes up. That's because water is extremely powerful. That's how the Grand Canyon got formed. This is not as deep as that, but I can almost guarantee you that at some point, maybe when Hurricane Camille came through in the 60s, this creek was probably wiping out this valley up to those banks. I know my father, I was very young then, it may have been the 70s, But my father was with the power company, and he had to go out in that. And we were without power and without running water. All I really remember was a tanker truck came to the cul-de-sac we were living in it down in Fairfax City. And Mom took the 3 kids and buckets or jugs or whatever he had, maybe it was pots and pans, down to the tanker truck to get fresh water. And then Dad was out climbing the poles to get the electrical lines put back together. So I'm thinking, just by living up in this county when I was a child, that's the worst storm I remember. I don't remember flooding, but I'm sure there was. And I imagine some of this was wiped out there. None of these houses existed back then. I'm thinking they were built after the 70s. The house we lived in, not that house, we moved further west. Moved in 72, so yeah, it had to be either late 60s or early 70s. So we moved when I was in the 2nd grade, so it was before that. And we moved in the summer of 72, and I think the house was 3 or 4 years old. So that was built in the late 60s. And these were probably built in the 80s or maybe 90s, judging from the siding and all that stuff. But that's enough rambling for today. I'll get this posted, and I'll see you again on Tuesday. Thanks. Have a great day. There should be a little button. I always forget to ask people to subscribe. So if you're still here and interested, please comment below, subscribe, and we'll talk to you later. God bless.